Okay, good day, beautiful people. Today we will take a look at your inflammation. Actually, it's inflammation and repair under this it presentation. Okay, your inflammation and repair, of course, they are local responses which are initiated to limit the damage that is caused by tissue injury, infection, toxins, and ischemia, and also your inflammation and repair. They are here to help in the recovery from tissue damage. Please note that is actually your inflammation to limit damage and for the recovery. But then, despite that, despite its primary role as a defense mechanism, your inflammatory responses and your repair processes may contribute to the tissue damage that is seen in many diseases. Please note that the term inflammatory response encompasses a whole range of processes, which are designed, of course, to limit tissue injury. Okay, so somewhat, if you try to uh, compare it, your inflammation, yes, it is good, diba? It is good. It is a good thing. But then it has a side effect somewhat. Okay, yes, let's take a look. Okay, as what I've said earlier, your inflammation is a response or it is actually a protective response. Okay, it is good somewhat, but then, okay, through the course of the inflammation process, there are bad things that may take place. But then let's take a look. Your inflammation is a protective response of vascularized tissues to infection or injury. And yes, the purpose of your inflammation is to bring immune cells and defense molecules from the blood going to the site of damage. So that, of course, the body can eliminate harmful agents and clear away the dead tissues. Okay, that is for your inflammation. And yes, so what are the stimulating factors or triggering factors for your inflammation? Examples of your triggering factors. You have your infection, like Mycobacterium tuberculosis, such, okay, or damage to the tissue. Okay, those are triggering factors. What we mentioned earlier, ischemia, okay, and the rest of your triggering factors for inflammation. And yes, of course, as the main function of your inflammation is to remove the cause of injury and to clean up necrotic tissues or dead cells and tissues. So here. Okay, and yes, of course, for what they call this, the mechanism is, of course, your leukocytes or your blood cells or your WBCs like your neutrophils and your phagocytes, they what they call they migrate to the site of inflammation or tissue injury. Okay, and so for your inflammation, of course, it will eliminate the cause of the injury and the damaged tissue. At your inflammation, let us see first your what we call as cardinal signs of inflammation. Your cardinal signs of inflammation, these are actually external manifestations of inflammation. External meaning those that are seen. Okay, and so those that can be seen. Okay, and so please note that when you say sign, it is something, it is objective. You can see it. Okay, yeah, you can see it. While when you say it is a symptom, okay, it is subjective. Okay, and so you can feel it accordingly. Okay, and so anyway, your external signs or external manifestations of your inflammation, this is again otherwise called as your cardinal signs of inflammation, which was actually described by Virchow. Okay, and so you have here your heat, or sorry, you have your redness. Okay, and so your redness here, this one is caused by increase in blood flow. Your redness is otherwise is The Latin term for redness is rubor. No, this is caused by increased in blood flow. There is a vasodilatation to the infected area, causing an increase in blood flow to that area. And yes, again, so there is an increase in blood flow and stasis that will take place, causing a redness. Please note that your inflamed tissues look red because the capillaries are engorged with blood. They are actually filled with blood accordingly. Okay, that is for your redness. And then you have here your heat or your calor. Okay, your heat here or your calor, this one is caused by what we call this increased in blood flow still. There is an increase in blood flow to the area, okay, and so causing a warm feeling. Okay, and so the inflamed areas, the inflammation area or the inflamed areas feels warm, of course, due to the increase in blood flow. And yes, if there is such a thing, I mean, if there is a systemic inflammation, no? If there is a systemic inflammation, it will cause fever. And yes, okay, and so heat pa rin po yun, calor pa rin po siya. Okay, and so if there is a systemic inflammation, it may cause fever. And then you have swelling. Okay, and so your heat is otherwise, the Latin term is calor, and then you have your swelling or the Latin term is tumor. Okay, this one results from the fluid accumulation in the tissues. Okay, your swelling is a result of fluid accumulation from the tissues, or there is an edema. Okay, plasma proteins and immune cells will leak out from the blood vessels, and they will go to the site of infection or site of inflammation, causing swelling accordingly or tumor. And then you have your pain. Your pain, again, so this is caused by your chemical mediators. Okay, and so they are caused by chemical mediators which stimulate your nerve endings. Okay, and so your pain, or this one is the Latin term is dolor, your pain will lead to the tenderness and discomfort at the site of inflammation. Of course, you have nerve endings you have nerve endings, you have nerves present in your and every part of the body. Okay, if there is an increase in the size, okay, or there is an inflammation that is happening, or there is a tumor, or there is a swelling, of course, it will push, okay, and so your, what you call this, it will push your other parts, causing, I mean, stimulating your nerve endings, okay, and so leading, of course, to pain. And then you have here your loss of function or your functionalia here is actually uh, added by Celsus. Okay, and so it was added by Celsus. Okay, and so your functionalia or your loss of function is not by Virchow, but it is by Celsus. Okay, in your loss of function, of course, the affected tissue or organ may not function properly. Okay, and so it may not function properly. Example is in an inflamed lungs. Okay, and so inflamed lungs may impair breathing. Okay, it may impair breathing. Let's say in an impaired, I mean in your joints, if there is an inflammation in the joints, okay, and so it may lose the mobility. Okay, and so those are the cardinal signs of inflammation. You have your redness. Please, let's utilize your English terms. Okay, you have your redness, you have your heat, swelling, pain, and loss of function. Okay, let's take a look at the general steps in inflammation. Please note that the first step is, of course, the offending agent, which is located in the extravascular tissues, is recognized by your host cells and molecules. Okay, it is recognized by your host cells, by your what you call this non-specific defense proteins like your complement proteins, your antibodies, and the rest, and other acute phase or proteins that are involved in the immunity. Okay, of course, the first step is the offending agent is recognized by your host cells and the molecules. And of course, your leukocytes, the second is your leukocytes and the plasma proteins are recruited from the circulation to the site where the offending agent is located. Okay, and yes, the leukocytes and your proteins are activated to destroy your offending substance. Okay, and the reaction is controlled and terminated. After that, the damaged tissue is repaired. Okay, and so those are accordingly your general steps in inflammation. Okay, and so damaged tissue is repaired. That is actually the conclusion of inflammation dapat. Acute inflammation. Please note that your acute inflammation is this one is your initial inflammation accordingly. And there is a rapid response to infections and tissue damage. Okay? Your acute inflammation typically develops within minutes or hours. And yes, it is rapid, sabi natin, diba? It occurs in a short duration. And it lasts for several hours or a few days lang. Okay? It lasts only for several hours or a few days, but then not more than weeks. Okay? And so not more than a week accordingly. Please note that okay, exudation. Exudation here takes place in both acute and chronic inflammation. Your exudation of fluid in plasma proteins, generally this is your edema. Okay? There is an exudation of fluid in plasma proteins, okay, as well as immigration of leukocytes, predominantly your neutrophils. Okay, and so predominantly your neutrophils. Okay, and what will they do? Of course, they mediate it. Okay, or they do their function. No? Okay, to localize your inflammatory or to localize the infection. And yes, when the acute inflammation achieves its desired goal of eliminating the offenders, the reaction subsides and the residual injury is repaired accordingly. But then, if the reaction does not subside and the injury is not repaired, okay, if it fails to do so, your your acute inflammation will progress to chronic inflammation. If, okay, the reaction does not subside and the injury is not eliminated. Let's take a look at your major components of your acute inflammation. First is you have major components, of course, you have your dilation of small vessels, leading to an increase in blood flow. And then, of course, there is an increased permeability of the microvasculature, and then immigration of leukocytes from the microcirculation to the site of injury. Okay. First, of course, is there is a transient vasoconstriction. Okay, there is a transient. Please note ha, there is a transient vasoconstriction. Okay, there is a transient vasoconstriction, and then after that, there will be dilation of your small vessels. There is a very short vasoconstriction muna, please note, and then after that, it is followed by dilation of small vessels. Okay, and so dilation of some small vessels leading to an increase in blood flow. Please note that in your dilation of your small vessels, it will cause an increase in the permeability of the microvasculature. Okay, increased permeability of the microvasculature will enable your plasma proteins and leukocytes to leave the circulation. If you remember your, what you call this, your migration of neutrophils to the site of inflammation. Okay, and so we talk about dilation also there. There is an increase in the permeability. Okay, and then after that, if there is an increase in the permeability, your leukocytes will migrate to the site of injury. They will accumulate in the site of injury, in the site, yes, in the site of your tissue injury, and will be activated or will do their function to eliminate the offending agent. Okay, and so yes, your exudation, again, your exudation here is the escape of fluid, proteins in blood cells from the vascular system to your interstitial tissues. So you have what we call as exudate here. Your exudate, your exudate is an extravascular fluid that has a high protein concentration. Exudate, it is an extracellular fluid that has a high protein concentration, and it contains cellular debris. It contains cellular debris. Accordingly, please note of your exudate, because later on we'll take a look at your transudate as we move through. Your exudate, the presence of your exudate implies that there is an increase in the permeability of small vessels. Okay, it implies that there is an increase in the permeability of your small blood vessels. And yes, it is typical during an inflammatory reaction. It is typical during an inflammatory reaction. Okay, your exudate, again, it has high protein concentration and contains cellular debris. In contrast, your transudate is a fluid with low protein content. Please note of that. It has a low protein content, no cellular material, and has a low specific gravity. There is a low protein content, no cellular material, and low specific gravity. Accordingly, it is an ultrafiltrate of blood plasma that is produced as a result of osmotic or hydrostatic imbalances across vessels with normal vascular permeability. Okay, that is for your exudate and transudate. Again, for your transudate, it is an ultrafiltrate of blood plasma that is produced as a result of hydrostatic imbalances across vessels with normal vascular permeability. Because in exudate, there is an increased vascular permeability kasi. Again, so in exudate, there is an increased vascular permeability. Okay? Your edema, your edema accordingly can either be exudate or transudate. Your edema can either be exudate or transudate. And yes, edema, this is an excess of fluid in the interstitial tissue or serous cavities. There is an accumulation of fluid in the interstitial tissue or serous cavities. Okay, and yes, your edema can either be an exudate or transudate. And you have your pus. Your pus, this is an inflammatory exudate that is rich in leukocytes, which is mostly neutrophils accordingly. And yes, there are also debris of dead cells and microorganisms present in the pus. That is for your pus. Okay, your pus is an exudate. Vasodilation. Okay, and so vasodilation, please note this is part of your acute inflammation. Your vasodilation will open new capillary beds. And yes, this opening of capillary beds will result in stasis of blood flow. Okay, it will result in stasis of blood flow. And yes, it will cause engorgement of small vessels jammed with slowly moving cells. And yes, as what we said, your vasodilation will cause heat and redness at the site of inflammation. Again, there is an engorgement of small vessels jammed with slowly moving red cells. And yes, okay, and so we see them externally as localized redness or edema of the involved tissue. But then, of course, when you examine it under the microscope, there is a vascular congestion. Okay, and so when you examine it under the microscope, of course, there is an increased blood flow to the area, and there is an engorgement of small vessels jammed with slowly moving red cells. Okay, and so when you examine it histologically, there is a vascular congestion. Okay, and so but then outside or externally, you see it as a localized redness, or yes, erythema of the involved tissue. Okay, and so please note that slower blood flow and increased viscosity of the blood will cause vascular congestion. All of this will contribute to the redness at the site of a tissue injury. Normal and inflamed capillary. Okay, and so normal and inflamed. Okay, and so normal, you have it as this. Okay, and then for your inflamed, of course, there is a vasodilation. Normally, you have this size, but then after a transient vasoconstriction, vasodilation will occur. Okay, and so naging dilated na po sila. There is a somewhat enlargement of the size of the lumen. Okay, and yes, okay, and so if there is an enlargement or vasodilation, it will, what we call this, cause an increase permeability of your endothelium. Okay, and so causing a movement of your inflammatory cells, sorry, or your WBCs and proteins. Of course, it will cause edema. Okay, in acute inflammation still, an increased permeability. After vasodilation, there is an increased permeability and outpowering of protein-rich fluid to the interstitium. Okay, and so yes, increased permeability is caused by retraction of your endothelial cells. Okay, increased permeability is caused by retraction of your endothelial cells. The body are spread. The endothelium it covers, they are spread. But then during increased permeability, the endothelial cells are somewhat retracted, giving spaces. Aside from that, increased permeability is also caused by endothelial injury. Endothelial injury. And then, of course, there is an immigration of leukocytes. Your leukocytes and your inflammatory proteins will move outside. Okay, they will go to the site of inflammation. Okay, and so this one is again an illustration of your, what do you call this? An illustration of your migration of your neutrophils to the site of inflammation. Of course, first is your leukocytes will roll and then they become activated and adhere to the endothelium. First, of course, is rolling. Okay, and then they will get activated and they adhere to the endothelium. And then after that, of course, they transmigrate across the plasma membrane. I mean, sorry, across the basement membrane. Okay, and so this is your basement membrane. Okay, they transmigrate across the endothelium and then through the basement membrane and move toward your chemoattractant to the site of tissue injury. Okay, please note that okay, you have different substances that play a role in each step of the process. You have, of course, your selectins. Okay, your selectins that is involved in the rolling process of your leukocytes, your chemokines. Okay, which are involved in the activation of neutrophils to increase their avidity or yes affinity to integrins. Okay, and of course your integrins they function in they what you call this they are important in the adhesion. Okay, in the adhesion of your neutrophils, and then of course you have your CD31. Okay, in transmigration. Okay, Your termination of acute inflammation can either be protective or harmful. Let's take a look at your protective part here. Okay, your antibodies, they are delivered to the sites of infection. And yes, your inflammation, your antibodies, they are proteins that are designed or they function against, they function for defense. And then edema formation or your edema will dilute toxic substances. It will dilute toxic substances, somewhat lowering their effect. And then your fibrin, it forms a substratum for cell migration. Your harmful ones. Okay, of course, you have digestion of adjacent tissue and localized tissue swelling of your hollow viscera, and then loss of function of affected organs. Loss of function of affected organs. And when generalized, okay, when generalized, the increased permeability can cause shock. Okay, it can cause shock. This one is usually seen in some hypersensitivity reactions naman. So you have here the outcomes. Please note that all inflammatory reactions, after they have succeeded in eliminating the offending agent, inflammatory reactions should end with restoring the inflamed area to normal. Okay, they should restore the inflamed site to normal. Okay, so here are the outcomes. You have your resolution, abscess formation, healing by fibrosis or scar formation, and chronic inflammation accordingly. For resolution, this is actually the usual outcome when the injury is limited, when the injury is rapid or short-lived, or when there has been a little tissue destruction and the damaged parenchymal cells can regenerate. Okay, those are the conditions to have a resolution. Okay, and yes, resolution involves the removal of cellular debris and microbes by macrophage and the resorption of edema by lymphatic vessels. Okay, you have scar formation as an outcome of acute inflammation. Your scar formation, this occurs after a substantial tissue destruction, when the inflammatory injury involves tissues that are incapable of regeneration. Please note kasi in resolution, no, if the damaged parenchymal cell can regenerate, okay, and so they can replace the damaged cell with the same cell. Okay, and so if you try to remember, you have three types of cell based on their capacity to regenerate. You have your labile cells or your continuously dividing cells, your quiescent cells, and then your permanent cells. Okay, if the cells involved are quiescent or if the cells involved are labile cells, then okay, and so it will the outcome is resolution. What if the damaged cell is incapable of regeneration? Then there is scar formation. And there is scar formation accordingly. Okay, scar formation also happens when there is abundant fibrin exudation in tissues or in serous cavities. Okay, and so scar formation happens also, okay, when there is an abundant fibrin exudation in tissue or in serous cavities, which is or which cannot be cleared adequately. And yes, in such situations, so the connective tissue will grow into the area of damage, converting it into a mass of fibrous tissue. Kaya po nagkakaroon ng scar, healing by fibrosis or scar formation. Okay? And then, of course, you have abscess formation. Of course, if they are not cleared, if if the tissue, site of tissue injury is not cleared, of course, it will cause an abscess formation. Okay? Or it can progress to chronic inflammation. Okay, acute to chronic transition occurs when the acute inflammatory response cannot be resolved as a result of the persistence of injurious agent or some interference with the normal process of healing. Okay, those are the outcomes of acute inflammation. You have your patterns of acute inflammation. Let's take a look first at your serous. Your serous inflammation is marked by exudation of cell-poor fluid into the spaces created by injury to surface epithelia or into your body cavities lined by your peritoneum, pleura, or pericardium. Okay? Please note that in fluid inflammation, I mean in serous inflammation, the fluid is not infected by microorganism. Okay, the fluid is not infected by microorganism, and there is a low leukocyte present in the serous inflammation fluid. Okay, kasi sabi natin earlier, okay, serous inflammation is marked by cell-poor fluid. It is marked by cell-poor fluid. There is a decrease in cells present. Okay? You also have your effusion. Your effusion is accumulation of fluid in body cavities. Accumulation of fluid in body cavities. Please note that there are effusions consisting of transudates also occur in non-inflammatory conditions, such as reduced blood flow in case of heart failure, or reduced plasma protein levels in some kidney and liver diseases. Okay? The blister, your skin blister, resulting from a burn or viral infection, represents actually an accumulation of serous fluid within or immediately beneath a damaged epidermis of the skin. Okay, that is actually an example of a serous inflammation. Okay, fibrinous inflammation. Please note that with a large increase in vascular permeability, higher molecular weight proteins like fibrinogen, yes, please note fibrinogen is a high molecular weight. Okay, and so they can pass out of the blood. Okay, they can pass out of the blood. Okay, and yes, the fibrin is formed and deposited in the extracellular space. Okay, fibrin is deposited and I mean formed and deposited in the extracellular space. Please note that fibrinous inflammation or fibrinous exudate is a characteristic of inflammation in the lining of body cavities like the meninges, the pericardium, and the pleura. Okay, and so fibrin appears as an eosinophilic meshwork accordingly. Okay, or sometimes it appears as an amorphous coagulum. Okay, in resolution, in the outcome, sorry, fibrinous exudate may be dissolved by fibrinolysis and may be cleared by macrophages. But then, if the fibrin is not removed, if not removed completely, it may stimulate the ingrowth of fibroblasts and blood vessels leading to scarring. Okay, that is for your fibrinous your purulent or your purulent inflammation. Okay, this is characterized by production of pus. Your pus is an exudate consisting of neutrophils, your liquefied debris of necrotic cells, and an edema fluid. Okay, your purulent inflammation, okay, can be seen with bacterial infection. Okay, that causes liquefactive necrosis. Okay, please note you have abscesses. Your abscesses, these are localized collections of pus caused by suppuration buried in a tissue, in an organ, or in a confined space. And yes, your abscesses, they produce by seeding of biogic bacteria into the tissue. patterns of acute inflammatory reaction or acute inflammation, you have your ulcers. Your ulcers occurs only when the tissue necrosis and resultant inflammation exist or they are near a surface area. In ulcers, there is an excavation of the surface of an organ or tissue that is produced by sloughing off of inflamed necrotic tissue. Here are your tissue locations or locations of your ulcers, usual locations. You have your mucosa of the mouth, stomach, intestines or genitourinary tract. Have you heard of peptic ulcer, gastric ulcer, those items? Actually, accordingly, your singaw is also an example of an ulcer. Okay? Aside from those sites, your skin and subcutaneous tissue of the lower extremities in older persons who have circulatory disturbances that predispose to extensive ischemic necrosis. Okay, and so skin and subcutaneous tissues in the lower extremities can be a site also of ulcer. Okay, chronic inflammation is a response of prolonged duration wherein inflammation, tissue injury, and attempts at repair coexist in varying combinations accordingly. Okay, and so in chronic inflammation, please note that it is caused by excessive or inappropriate immune activation. And yes, your persistent infections can be caused by, your chronic inflammation can be caused by persistent infections. Please note that there are microorganisms that are different or difficult to remove, like your mycobacterium, your viruses, as such. Okay, aside from persistent infection, hypersensitivity diseases, you have your delayed type hypersensitivity reactions. Okay, and then prolonged exposure to potentially toxic agents. Chronic inflammation, there is infiltration with the mononuclear cells, which include macrophage, lymphocyte, and plasma cells accordingly. Also, tissue destruction is induced by persistent offending agent or by inflammatory cells. And there is also an attempt at healing by connective tissue replacement of damaged tissue, which is accomplished by angiogenesis and fibrosis accordingly. Okay, and so that is for your chronic inflammation. Granulomatous inflammation is a form of chronic inflammation which is characterized by collections of activated macrophage often with T lymphocytes, and sometimes it is associated with central necrosis. Okay, the morphologic pattern of chronic inflammation induced by T cell and macrophage activation in response to an agent that is resistant to eradication. Okay, granuloma inflammation is a morphologic pattern of chronic inflammation again that is induced by T cells and macrophage activation in response to an agent that is resistant to eradication. Please note that in this case, the activated macrophage may develop abundant cytoplasm and begin to resemble epithelial cells. Okay, and so which are then called as epithelioid cells. Okay, some activated macrophage may fuse, forming multinucleated giant cells. Some activated macrophage may fuse, forming multinucleated giant cells. And granuloma formation here is a cellular attempt to contain an offending agent that is difficult to eradicate. Okay, and in this attempt, of course, there is often strong activation of T cells leading to macrophage activation, which can cause injury to normal tissues. That is for your granulomatous inflammation. There is granuloma formation. Okay, this one actually is a what they call this A table showing you your acute and chronic inflammation as to onset, the cells involved, your tissue injury or necrosis, and local and systemic signs. Of course, as to onset, your acute is the onset is fast, and your chronic it is slow. As for the cells, in your acute, mainly neutrophils; for the chronic, monocytes, macrophage, and lymphocytes. As to tissue injury and necrosis, for acute, usually mild and self-limited, while for chronic, it may be severe and progressive. And for local and systemic signs, for acute, it is prominent; for chronic, it is lesser. And then you have your tissue repair. Tissue repair, this is the regeneration of injured cells and tissues, which involves cell proliferation. Okay? Regeneration of injured cells and tissues is driven by growth factors and is critically dependent on the integrity of the extracellular matrix and by the development of the mature cells from your stem cells. Of course, if the stem cells are destroyed, then it will not, there is no cells anymore that will produce new cells. Okay? You have for your tissue repair, you have your epithelial tissue regeneration. Please note, of course, that if the tissue, okay, this one, your tissue repair or regeneration depends on the type of cell that is destroyed, if the cell is capable of regeneration or if not. Epithelial tissue regeneration, your injured epithelial cells are replaced by proliferation of residual cells. Okay, of course, the basement membrane remain intact. The stem cells, the basal cells are still present. Okay, and so you have here proliferation of your residual cells or basal cells or stem cells. And of course, differentiation of stem cell derived cells. Of course, the outcome for this one is newly formed cells which then migrate into the defective region, restoring the tissue injury. And then regeneration of parenchymal tissue. Your parenchymal organs can regenerate if their cells proliferate, but the regeneration is limited. Okay, and so examples of organs with capacity. You have pancreas accordingly, adrenal, thyroid. Okay, because most parenchymal organs regenerate only limited. Okay, and so they regenerate, they have a limited capacity of regeneration. But then, for some organs wherein regeneration is not possible, then, of course, so they will form. I mean, the injury is, what they call this, the repair is by scar formation. Repair by scarring. Okay, your scarring is connective tissue deposition. Please note that scarring occurs when repair cannot be accomplished by cell regeneration alone. Again, it occurs by replacement of the injured cells with connective tissues, leading to the formation of a scar, or by a combination of regeneration of some residual cells and scar formation. Okay, you have angiogenesis. Angiogenesis here a process in scar formation. Okay, your endothelial cells proliferate to form new capillaries. Okay, it will proliferate to form new capillaries, and this one will provide oxygen and nutrients to support healing. And then, of course, after that, there is the formation of your granulation tissue. Fibroblasts will migrate into the wound and begin producing extracellular matrix. So in your granulation tissue, there is a combination of new blood vessels, fibroblasts, and inflammatory cells. And the tissue appears pink and granular due to rich vascularity. That is for the formation of granulation. After that, there is a deposition of extracellular matrix. Okay? Please note, there is a deposition of your extracellular matrix. The first step, of course, in scarring is angiogenesis, followed by formation of your granulation tissue, and then deposition of extracellular matrix. Your fibroblast that has migrated to that site will lay down collagen and other extracellular matrix component. Please note that the uh, the deposited extra collagen and ECM by your fibroblast, initially they are loose. Okay, they are loose. And then, of course, after being deposited, it will be remodeled. It will be remodeled. The collagen and ECM, which are loosely deposited, will be remodeled. The collagen fibers are cross-linked and reorganized for tensile strength. Of course, what happens next? There is a decrease in vascularity. Okay, there is a decrease in vascularity. Sabi natin earlier, there is an angiogenesis. Thus, the granulation tissue appears pink. Okay, and so but then, if there is a decrease in vascularity, the scar becomes pale. The scar becomes pale, and then, of course, the final scar is relatively acellular, avascular, and composed mainly of dense collagen tissue. Okay, that is for scarring. Yes, that's it for today. We will continue next time. Thank you for making this far. Thank you so much. And yes, this has been Gael, reminding you to live fully, love deeply, laugh often, keep learning, and never forget to enjoy the ride. Thank you so much, and see you around.